So let's get this show on the road. Hi, everybody, and it is good to see everyone join us again for another of fabulous talks on water issues. This morning we have Kris Meyer with us from Freshwater. Kris has done just a ton of work in bringing an education perspective to Freshwater's community leadership development efforts. She administers Freshwater's Minnesota Water Steward leadership training, certifying volunteers who tackle water quality and efficiency in their communities through projects, education, and public art initiatives, bringing together some really interesting aspects there, as well as Freshwater's Adopt a River program that invites everyone to build a community of connections through shoreline cleanup events. So Kris has been working on this, critical connection between, what it is that we all do and this essential buy-in and involvement of community. Kris has a Master of Arts in Environmental Journalism and has worked as a freelance writer, classroom teacher, and tutor. Kris, it is great to have you with us. Take it away.
Thanks. Thank you, Mark. Good morning. Well, I can see from my home desk here that it's another cloudy, blustery day out there. And remember how good the sun felt on Sunday? I recently came across a quote from Charles Dickens' Great Expectations that I wanted to share at the beginning today. It goes like this. It was one of those March days when the sun shines hot and the wind blows cold, when it is summer in the light and winter in the shade. So I'm hoping for some more sunshine and some more summer coming here. That really captured the roller coaster March that we've been experiencing. And I don't know, I don't know about you all, but I look out the window and my mood sort of reflects what the day is like. So I'm hoping we can bring some sunshine into the morning. As we get started, I'd like to ask you all to think about one or two words that come to mind when you consider what makes a leader. And I'm going to ask you to actually take some action and put that word or words in the chat now so we can kind of see what you have to say. So, honesty, I see. What makes a leader? Anyone else have any thoughts? Listening skills, good thought. Fearless, communication, listener, empathy, integrity, supportive, bold. More thoughts? Vision. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Keep on holding dependable. Yeah. Hold all of those in your mind. For me, the word that I keep coming back to when I consider what makes a leader is followers. There's no movement, there's no leader without that first follower, right? Followers transform an individual with a unique idea or message into a leader. And the leader who nurtures those followers as equals ensures that the movement or the message is the focus and not the leader, him or herself. So I'd like to share some examples this morning of how we here at Freshwater are developing leadership with followers in mind, seeing ourselves and equipping others to be the guides on the side rather than the sage on the stage, so to speak. Supporting leaders who are busy working with their community and their people in pursuit of healthy, sustainable water. So with that, let's get going into my slideshow here. I'm going to, let's see, share my screen and present to you. Let's see, share. Center view. There we go. All right. Here we are. Okay. At Freshwater, we're a statewide member-supported nonprofit based in St. Paul. Together with our members, we're on a mission to inspire and empower people to value and protect water. We work on policy initiatives, coordinate research efforts, facilitate conversations that invite inclusive decisions around water, and design and deliver community engagement programs and experiences. We're also proud publishers of the Minnesota Weather Guide calendar, and I want to make a commercial for that right now and say, check it out. It's something we aren't often associated with it, but it's a great resource, and I'd like you to see it. And I'm going to stop here for just a minute and make sure that I am sharing with the sound, because I didn't check that when I shared. So hang on a minute here. They tell me that you are able to hear. Let's see. Yep, I'm all set. Good. All right. There we go. Thanks. Now, are you seeing the slideshow now? Somebody?
No, we're seeing your notes.
You are. Okay,
Yes.
hang on. This is what I want to do. Here we go. Better, huh?
Looks perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. I wanted to make sure I'm going to show some videos, and I want to make sure that the sound comes through, because that's important. So, okay. Here we go. All right. As I was saying, at Freshwater, we're committed to finding ways for everyone to make a difference for water. And one way we do this is through our programming. So let's take a look first at the Minnesota Water Stewards. This is a program designed and run by Freshwater to equip people with knowledge, connections, and confidence so they can use these tools as leaders in their communities to define water and climate-related problems and take action to address them. The program began as a pilot in the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District in 2013 with a group of just 18 people holding small in-person classes and workshops. In 2016, we expanded throughout the broader metro area and parts of greater Minnesota, and we're now a network of nearly 500 stewards with 23 partner organizations. You can see some of the reach of the stewards on this map. This is a little bit older, and so it doesn't show the Rochester area and a few other places in greater Minnesota that we have some stewards acting at this point. Watershed districts, municipalities, and counties partner with Freshwater to sponsor stewards living in their districts. There's a significant bridge building aspect that happens through this relationship, the relationships that develop between the stewards and their sponsoring partners. Once certified, stewards can serve as a trained group of ambassadors for their partners and leverage the interest of those partners' priorities and their initiatives within the personal networks of the steward. They're also better able to access funds and advocate for their own priorities and initiatives once they have gotten to know their partner better. And in both cases, they're equipped and in position to bring people together to move projects forward. Sort of a steward bridge, if you will, between government and community. To better understand how this impact is possible, let's take a closer look at steward training. The Minnesota Water Steward Certification curriculum consists of classes covering basic water science, efficiency, water policy, community engagement, and landscaping for water quality and efficiency. We call it blended learning because all of the course content is online in an interactive textbook format, and stewards go through the material at their own pace. Then each month throughout the training, the steward candidates come together with their partners in check-in workshops to talk about what they're learning, ask questions, participate in activities that apply what they've learned. The time spent with the online course and in the workshops totals about 40 hours of learning, which then culminates in a capstone project. The capstone gives steward candidates the opportunity to put all of the information they've studied throughout the program in motion in a project that reflects their interests and skills. Capstone projects are as individual as the stewards themselves, but all include both an educational outreach piece and something that improves water health. Some examples of capstone projects include rain gardens, prairie restoration, water efficiency audits, sustainable lawn practices, and the list just goes on. And once a capstone project is complete, stewards are certified at a celebration in the fall, and then they become what we call super volunteers or deeply trained volunteers. The stewards go on to volunteer 25 hours a year to improve water and maintain their certification, and as well as 8 hours of continuing education. And as for what they do once they're certified, stewards do something simple things like table events or assist their partner organizations in other projects, and they end up serving on community advisory committees, the city commissions. There are many stewards working in state agencies and watershed district positions. They work with schools and nonprofits and even drive legislative action. This is the Stopover Salting team you see here. They're an exciting example of the impact a group of stewards can have when they work together to drive legislation. Trained in the early years of the program and inspired by a freshwater policy workshop, this particular small group of stewards have worked diligently since 2017 as SOS, Stopover Salting, to craft and promote legislation that establishes best management practices, salting practices into state law. As most of you likely know, there's 2 bills currently progressing this session that seek to establish conditions of liability protection for commercial applicators who follow best practices as established in the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's Smart Salting Certification Training. They also seek to establish funding for this certification training. And the broader community of stewards has shown up to support those who have been testifying at the hearings, so to make a great showing, a public showing for these bills. And we are just thrilled to see this legislation finally progressing this session. And we watch to see what happens. What I find most rewarding about working with this program is the chance to spend time with stewards, learning from them and catching their energy and enthusiasm. They're an amazing crowd. And I want to give you this same kind of opportunity this morning. So I have a video I'd like to share where Michelle Spangler and Kristen Winshut talk about some of their projects. So let's listen in. Here we go.
At Freshwater, we've made it our mission to find ways for everyone, for you to make a difference for water. One way we do this is with our programs. Freshwater's Minnesota Water Stewards program, for example.
Hundreds have completed this program and are doing great things for water. Michelle Spangler is one.
Michelle's story is special because she took what she learned in our Minnesota Water Steward program and got her whole neighborhood involved. Let's let Michelle tell the rest.
My name is Michelle Spangler. I'm a Minnesota water steward. I live in Northeast Minneapolis. I'm a former science teacher at South High School. I have 2 little kids, and I was home with them for a few years when I first learned about the Minnesota Water Steward program. So while I was in the Minnesota Water Steward program, I learned that everything that goes into our storm drains in the streets, all the water and sediment and sand and trash, goes straight to the Mississippi River. And so when my son started kindergarten, I spent a lot of time there at the corner waiting for the bus to come by, and there were 6 storm drains at that corner. And over the course of that school year, watching the sediment build up, the ice block the storm drains, there was flooding there at the corner, and I realized I needed to do something about those storm drains. And so I adopted all 6 there at the corner, and while I'd wait for the bus to come in the afternoon, I'd be sweeping and cleaning them. But I wanted to learn more about the Adopt a Drain program, which led me to do some Google searching, and I found out there was a storm drain challenge over in St. Paul that had 2 neighborhoods competing to see who could adopt the most storm drains. And being a resident of Northeast, it's like our own little small town. I thought that would fit perfectly within my neighborhood of Northeast Minneapolis. And the part that I really like about storm drains is that we're not waiting for some government entity to come save us and make things better and pass some kind of law, but it's something that we can do ourselves. And it only takes a few minutes, and I have little kids and they love helping. They feel really good about helping to keep our river clean by just sweeping this stuff up. And my friends' kids will come over and I'll teach them. We'll go clean storm drains together, and then I'll walk them back to their house. And along the way we're walking and we're seeing those storm drains that need to be cleaned out, or which ones are clean. And then they're going home and talking to their families about it, and now their families are adopting storm drains. And so it just is it's a really positive thing. I think especially over the last few years, we've needed something positive and something physically to do that can make things better. And so I think it was just the right time for this kind of project. The neighborhood's just been super supportive. My city council people are just really supportive. Everyone who hears about it is just really excited about it. It's just something that feels really good, and it's exciting to be a part of that.
What a great story.
And Michelle is just getting started.
And so is Kristen Winsek. Kristen took what she learned in a freshwater program and, using her own connections, rolled out a really creative series of workshops.
My name is Kristen Winsek, and I am a Minnesota Water Steward, class of 2019. About 15 years ago, I had attended a workshop for rain gardens. In this program, I actually learned a lot about rain barrels as well. A rain barrel is a great way to collect rainwater and prohibit that from going into the storm drains, which eventually ends up in our lakes and streams. So it helps keep our water clean, and then also helps lower your water bill in the process. So as we're learning about water collection methods, I thought to myself, this is a really great opportunity to get Town Hall Brewery involved. Minneapolis Town Hall Brewery has been in my small chosen family for the last 20 years. I worked there all through college and a bit beyond, so I have a really great relationship with them. And it's a really great opportunity for them to give back and show their support to our community too. The barrels are used for aging beer, so they have a lifespan of about 1 to 2 cycles. So this is a perfect opportunity for them to upcycle, so to speak, into the community, and the community is really excited about these barrels. Now my real goal is to expand this program statewide. I'd like to get every watershed in the state involved. We have hundreds of craft breweries in the state now. And with the help of this grant from Freshwater, people pay a nominal fee for this beautiful piece of artwork. It's really lovely to walk around now, and I see a lot of my neighbors that were participating in my workshops that have their barrels set up, and they send me photos and videos and how excited they are just to have something. And it's, you know, it's a small step in a much bigger picture of water stewardship. But I think it really gets people interested and excited about what they can do next.
All right. That's Minnesota Water Stewards. Some wonderful work happening there. Now let's talk about Art for Water. Art for Water is an artist-focused initiative within the Minnesota Water Steward program. It aims to engage artists of all mediums with our water science curriculum and provides them with strategies for using their art to encourage action for water. Art provides a significant platform for dialogue and engagement, communicating in emotional, tactile, metaphorical, and experiential ways. It gives us different forms to spread a message. Much contemporary artwork is also interactive, interdisciplinary, collaborative, and participatory, all key to engagement as well. By working with and supporting artists from a variety of art disciplines in our water steward training, Freshwater's Art for Water program not only supports artists in their efforts to reach community, but also provides sponsoring partners with the ability to communicate through the arts and therefore engage a broader, more diverse audience. I'd like you to have a chance to hear from some partners and artists. So let's take a look at this next video and learn a little bit more about Art for Water.
Freshwater. Our mission is in our name. And when you live in the land of more than 10,000 lakes, you're surrounded by fresh water. In our lakes and rivers, flowing from our taps, and in the groundwater we all rely on. But the downside of being awash in fresh water, it's easy to take it for granted. We just assume it'll always be here, to sustain us, entertain us, and maintain our way of life.
At Freshwater, our goal is to empower people to protect and improve our water. So how can we educate and engage more people, helping them understand that everyone plays a role in a clean water future? How can we share our passion for fresh water in a way that captures the attention of more Minnesotans to protect this vital resource? That was the inspiration for Art for Water.
Art for Water is part of the Minnesota Water Stewards program. Artists explore water science and community engagement, sparking new ideas and ways to create interactive public art. Art that educates and inspires to ensure healthy, plentiful fresh water for years to come.
When you think about it, we all live on waterfront property. Water flowing off our lawns and down the street to storm drains travels through a system of pipes and tunnels, unfiltered, directly into lakes and streams. Some leaves and debris naturally enter lakes and streams, providing food for algae and other life. But when lots of food flows off of our streets, it can be too much of a good thing, making lakes sick. One simple action we can take for healthy water is to remove leaves, grass clippings, and other debris from street curbs and storm drains. Here's Art for Water artist Gino Oko to show us how he can help us remember this.
Hi, my name is Gino Oko. I'm a local artist. I specialize in murals, and I found out about the Art for Water program through Freshwater. I came out here to create image on the drain to show, for people to be mindful of the trash that's laid on the ground and the leaves. So, as a community, we work together and we help clean up our streets. The experience was really fun because my hope is to get people to be more inspired to clean up the storm drain closest towards their home. They don't have to even go, to the other side of the street. Like anyone closest to you, and hopefully they would also want a painting on their own storm drain, so it makes it more interesting to look at, and you always remember and you always want to pay attention to it and clean it up. It's a sense of accomplishment, and it's a sense of doing my part for the community. So because with me being an artist, I always try to find a way of okay, how can my art also benefit the community? So doing something like this with art and storm drain and bringing attention is a really good feeling, and I feel as though I'm doing my part to help my community and in society as well.
Another artist in our Art for Water program is Ian Nystrom. Ian's sculpture work takes us in another direction. Ian spent countless hours working with scrap materials from his day job to create this piece, soon to be installed along the Mississippi River. Here is Beth Carreño from Rice Creek Watershed District to tell us more about her experience as a sponsor of Artist Stewards.
We recruited 2 local artists to help us form new connections with the public around water. We know that a lot of different mediums work. You want to try to communicate in a lot of different ways with the public, and art is a very powerful tool that we have. A lot of people connect with water through their feelings, and that's also how they connect with art. And so we were really excited to be able to kind of approach that water education, water relationship through the art context. One of our artists, we were really excited. Ian is a sculptor, and he went through the freshwater training for the Water Stewards program, and it really got him thinking.
One of my big takeaways that I wanted to share with people that'll see the sculpture is this different way of looking at the river and the watershed and the water sources, and thinking about it less as kind of this big monolithic river and more as all the individual points of runoff and different water sources that join together to make up the whole at the end. That was one of the really insightful things about the course, and one of the things that I wanted to highlight with the piece that I was putting together.
Next, let's meet Presley Martin. Presley is an avid paddler, exploring along riverbanks and under freeways, in places where waste accumulates.
He creates sculptures from trash he collects along the way. Most recently, he produced a field guide to plastics found in the Mississippi, helping us all see just how much pollution flows into the river.
When I first started coming down to the creek, thinking about it as my neighborhood, I started seeing how it was the center of the neighborhood and how people used it every day as a place, as nature, probably just being close to water and you know, just I guess being by water and the way it sort of heals and connects you to nature.
That was Ryan Siebold. He recognizes that the creek in his neighborhood is the center of his community.
That's why he created a community-led education series called Water Table, where kids, and kids at heart, can explore and learn about the communities that thrive in a healthy creek ecosystem.
Our next Art for Water artist is Erica Finney. Erica chased her curiosity to the shores of Bassett Creek, creating a coloring book field guide that explores the communities and history of the creek. There is just so much creativity in our Art for Water program. This is Madeline Helling. She creates puppets larger than life, as well as small finger puppets. Her Art for Water project features critters she and her son observed living in, on, or near the water. She is developing puppet shows to help people meet and learn to care for these communities. In her Art for Water project, Sarah Udvig thought big. Her labor-intensive project, Ripple Effect, involved moving and arranging tons of multicolored rocks over 100 yards of beach to create a drop of water best viewed from high above.
Then there's Ben Weaver. Ben is a poet, songwriter, and philosopher who bikes along the Mississippi River, offering mini concerts of his original songs to connect people with water.
I happen to be an artist, but that's a pretty broad term, and I'm thankful for the chance to use the gifts that I was given to help other people connect with the water. And it just made me think about how I think a lot of us have, myself included, like pretty theoretical relationships with water and with the earth right now, and we're waking up, and that's important. But for water to be the way that it is, where it can change shape and form and pace, and it's so disruptible, and it never loses its essence. It never changes who it is, but it changes its form or its noise or its tune.
With the help of talented artists like Ben and the many others you've seen today, we are waking up to our relationship with water and with the earth, and that's important.
Art for Water is touching lives, connecting and engaging people to learn from each other.
Hi, My name is Shania Matson. I'm an artist, a writer, and a cultural and community organizer. It's great that artists get a chance to learn more about science, policy, and land use, because that only makes us more connected and more informed about the work that we're doing with water. But it's also a really great opportunity for community organizations to learn from artists how to engage one another, how to deepen those relationships, and how to make science and policy more real and more impactful in our communities.
Art is a language that speaks to people in a way that science and data never could. So using art to bring attention to our water resources is just a wonderful way to connect with so many different communities and residents around the watershed. Through the Art and Water program, our streams and lakes in our watershed are going to be the subject of a coloring book. And we think that's just such a fun and unique way to connect and engage with both children and adults in our watershed. And we're just so grateful to be part of that program.
The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Isn't that one of the first things that we learned about water and how water flowed? Through a song. Art is definitely an important means to communicating about how important water is. We all know if we don't care about something, we're not going to take care of it. And we all need water to survive.
I think we can all agree that there's nothing more essential to life than fresh water. And we appreciate the necessity and the power of art in our lives.
Bringing these two forces together is what Art for Water is all about. We can't wait to see what other great work our artists can accomplish for the sake of fresh water and for the health and safety of us all. All right. As you could see in those videos, I hope you caught the energy there. The projects that our stewards and our artist stewards get involved in and initiate are so far beyond what we could do as an organization if we would set out to do a specific project or something. This dispersal of leadership and the freedom, the feeling equipped and capable to do that these programs allow just is so innovative and so amazingly creative and far-reaching and touches people in lots of different ways in lots of different places. So we're pretty proud of that. Let's go on to Adopt a River, our newest program, what we call a shoreline cleanup program for everyone. This is initially part of the Minnesota DNR in the 1980s. Over the years, Adopt a River program has organized over 3,200 cleanups and consequently picked up over 6.5 million pounds of trash with the help of over 90,000 volunteers. Now, as a freshwater program, Adopt a River will continue to contribute to a cleaner water environment while also building community connections and leadership. Freshwater's hope for this iteration of Adopt a River is to provide a low barrier, concrete way to inspire and equip people throughout the state to take action for clean water and begin to understand that we are all responsible for our water. The cleanups can be a one-time event or an up to 2-year adoption with cleanups suggested each spring and fall. Picking up litter along shorelines, it doesn't have to be a river, it can be any shoreline, is the action that gets us to the goal of the cleanups, providing participants with an experience that builds connection with the water body that they're cleaning and their fellow participants. These connections lead to a more relational way of thinking that can help people see themselves as responsible and capable people who take action for water. This shift in perspective is what we hope will inspire participants to continue to engage with water stewardship, share Adopt a River's message, and tackle upstream activities and sources of pollution.
Our new toolkit for cleanups gives step-by-step guidance and lots more information. It's now available on our website along with registration information. And we're rolling out a story map later this spring to share the impact of the program and build an Adopt a River community. And this is another commercial I'm going to throw in here. This coming Saturday from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock at the Bell Museum, we are participating in a focus on water that the Bell Museum is having a science spotlight, they call it, on water. And we'd like to invite anybody who's interested to show up. Many of your colleagues who are on this call are going to be there too, talking about programs that they have that impact water. And so I think that link was put in the chat at the very beginning, and maybe someone will be putting that in again now. So come see us on Saturday if you'd like. We're going to have kids making dragonflies out of egg crates. So that could be a fun activity for your kids. All right. Work at the local level with individuals and their networks is foundational to the mission and impact of Freshwater. We understand that successful, lasting solutions to water challenges rely on effective engagement, partnership, and a knowledgeable, trusting, supportive community. However, water issues are increasingly complex and interrelated, weaving together physical and socioeconomic systems. Personal action alone isn't enough. Systemic problems require systemic solutions. At Freshwater, we're collaborating to not only equip people as inspiring communicators and effective actors, but also to clear pathways to scale up and connect community action to broader systemic and policy change. And this is a slide that illustrates some ways that this scaling up to different levels happens. You can take a look. Oopsie. And that is the end of what I have for you today. I thank you for the opportunity to share some of Freshwater's community leadership programs this morning, and I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have. With that, I will stop sharing and open it up. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions for Kris, feel free to just unmute yourself and go ahead and get a conversation started.
I have one right away to get us started before people think of their questions. How long has this been going on? How long have you been doing this, Kris?
This work, I've been at Freshwater for 5 years, and I came on to add water efficiency, water conservation advisors, we call them, to our Minnesota Water Steward Training Program in 2018. And since then, the Adopt a River, or the Art for Water program and the Adopt a River program have come into our portfolio as well. So, but at the Minnesota Water Stewards started in 2013. So it's what, 9 years now? Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah, Brooke, SOS crew, it's they've been hammering at this since 2017, and it's just so exciting. What's kind of cool is to listen to the stewards and see how articulate they have become over the years. Just what a great job they do at the hearings, or the testifying in front of the committees. I guess that's what it's called. And we're pretty excited to see that this might actually move forward now. Anybody have any questions?
Well, I have another one.
Thanks, Mark.
Actually, not so much a question, Kris, as kind of an observation. And of course, this has occurred to you before. It seems like, in a lot of our work, we are really focused in on the science of water and the science of water pollution, and, the details of how all of that works. And, I've often wondered or observed that, it seems like we're talking to a very small subset of people out there who can either relate to that or who might be interested in that kind of messaging. And here you're taking, you know, a different approach to getting people engaged and caring about this. And it seems like we could all be doing a whole lot more of that to get people engaged in protecting this, you know, hugely important resource.
Yeah, I always say once you start seeing, you can't stop seeing. It's kind of like if you pass a water tap that's open, you can't help but close it. And so any kind of initial aha moment we can create with people helps them be primed for maybe receiving the science, reading a news article with clearer eyes, you know, understanding. People often complain to us, people that get involved in storm drain cleaning in particular, that once they've understood the connection between the water that runs off of their property, off their sidewalks, off of the parking lots, through the storm drains directly without any treatment into the creeks and rivers around us, they can't stop seeing that. And then every time they pass a littered or clogged up storm drain, they feel compelled to do something about it. And they say it's sort of a curse, but and that's one small example of how people, you start noticing sprinkler heads that are not adjusted right and are sprinkling the sidewalks, or sprinkling it during a rainstorm or something. You start going, oh, I know what's going on there now. So any kind of introduction you can give people to start seeing are everybody's impact on water, and also the fact that you can have an impact to create healthier water is an effort that I think is well invested in. I see a question here: how long are the artists sponsored? Our artists receive a stipend for their work. It's a one-year training with a capstone project similar to the Water Steward program. And then we don't sponsor them with financially anymore, but each group of artists is added to the artist community, and we try and do supportive, provide information that comes across into our awareness about opportunities for them, connecting them to watershed districts and other places where they can do their work. We just on Tuesday night held a workshop for all of our artists that were trained in the last 3 years, and the new ones coming in, held by the Springboard for the Arts, that talked about engaging community and how you go about it, and thinking about your goals, the goals of the community, how you can create strong connections. And Springboard has a free year-long training that artists can tap into for helping them understand federal funds and how they can get some funding for this too. So we try and be supportive that way. But the actual stipend that comes through the program is just the 1 year for one project stipend. Another question here is, how do community members find out about our programming? What steps does Freshwater take to ensure that programs are accessible for all people? Our programming, we do things like this. We have our website. We show up in different places. The stewards themselves are great communicators of what they're doing out in the community, and watershed districts help us out with that too. Our program's accessible for all people. We are working on that. We have reduced our the cost of the program. We still rely on partners to help sponsor this. We are trying to figure out ways to kind of take pieces of our science training and chunk them out and not make that have to be a whole package, so it can be applicable in various communities. We are very much aware that the Minnesota Water Steward Program, which began as Master Water Stewards, fashioned after the Master Gardeners and Master Naturalist programs. We shifted the name, and it was originally conceived as a way to help cities answer their MS4 responsibilities, and so directly kind of aimed at property owners and runoff from that property. That was very limiting, and we've expanded our idea of what projects can be, and we've looked at apartment dwellers, we've looked at various other communities, but we are still very limited in what that particular program can deliver. Adopt a River is a hope is that that's a little bit more broadly accessible to a variety of communities. The Art for Water program gets at a broader audience, and artists are a more diverse community, but we don't fool ourselves into thinking that we're going to make a program or programs what is the vehicle for everybody. We do believe in community leadership development, and what that involves is going out and listening to communities and hearing what's going on in communities, what the issues are, what their needs are, and then seeing if we can be partners in that or support that or clear the way, open the door to help those initiatives that the communities are coming up with can happen. And we happen to be an organization that is, as a nonprofit and as a statewide nonprofit that is involved all the way from policy down to grassroots. We have a lot of connections, and we can create connections for groups and people that need them, and so we can serve as that too. We don't have to be the, like I said, we don't have to be the leaders or the program bringers. We can just be the door openers too, or the, stand behind and give some information. I'm talking a lot now, but I have had a limiting belief that I held going into our work with artists, that they would not be as interested in our science education as some of the other people, and I was 100% wrong. So I'm carrying that thought in the back of my mind as I go into other communities and listen and talk and say, we have this, we have access to this. Is it something that would be helpful to you? A lot of times, yeah. So we'll see, but trying to keep a really open mind. Where do you suggest people put the storm drain gunk after cleaning them out? I do it depending. For my own personal cleaning, if it's like in the fall or spring and it's the stuff that's falling from the trees and it's relatively clean, I put it in with my yard waste. Otherwise, I put it in a bag and stick it in my garbage. I do used to have a composting process, but since the city has started composting and since I only have a tiny little city lot, I didn't need that much compost. So now I put mine in the compost. But yeah, the oil, gasoline, rubber, any kind of, we have anything that's coming off of the street that isn't like had just fallen there needs to go in the garbage, in my opinion. More questions? Or someone else might have a better answer than I do to that too, so feel free.
So I would imagine, Kris, that most of your programming is done in the Twin Cities metro area. What kind of outreach or what kind of involvement do you have in like the outstate areas? I'm wondering.
Mm-hmm. Good question. Yeah, that has been a limit for these specific programs. We have had inquiries about for art stewards out in greater Minnesota. That again, the problem there is finding someone who can stipend an artist to pay them for their work, and so that is a limit to that. But we're working that angle. We have some inquiries for a foundation that wants to sponsor some in Washington County, which isn't really out of the metro, but it's moving a little bit up to the edges. And we have an untapped area of work with lake associations. They're hungry for background information and community engagement training and practice, so that they can start addressing the lakeshore restoration issues on lakes. And also, we have not even dipped our toes into invasive species, but that's a big issue. And so we know we need to find experts and learn more about that and help people feel able to articulate what can be done, or what is being done at the research level, so people can have a better picture of what's going on. We also, there's all private well owners, huge testing your wells, and what do you do if you find out you've got trace arsenic naturally occurring in your well water or something. But so we know we need to add that kind of information into our training, and then offer ways for people to get trained. We're kind of thinking now, and this is, you're getting into our aspirational side, but it's very doable, is going out and we used to hold a big state of, well, we may still, who knows. We're in the process of reconsidering our state of water. What is what's that state of water gathering that we used to do every other year, and thinking about maybe it's more effective to do smaller state of waters in various regions, and then have people talking about regional concerns, problems, issues, and maybe link that to some training that we can then bring in as a next step for people who want to start taking action, and connecting people to their soil and water conservation districts, their county watershed districts, or whatever, the lake associations, as partners to kind of work beyond the individual level into the next level. So we're thinking that way too. They're just these programs, if you kind of unlock them from the set way that they've delivered them in the past, and take their components and imagine how we could use them and spread them out, there's just no limit to how we can reconstruct them in ways that meet people's needs, as long as you look at the idea of that whole that I started with, of not having all the answers or all the even the ways to do things, but giving people enough information so they can take action themselves, and then helping clear the way so that can happen is what I see my job as. Any other questions? I don't see anything more in the chat. Well, I can't see any of your faces except for Mark, but I trust that this has been an interesting experience for you this morning, and I hope that we've given you something to think about in your work, and given you a little bit better idea of what I do in my work, and how Freshwater is acting in the state, and what we hope to be doing in the future. And I thank you very, very much for this opportunity to visit with you today.
Well, it is really interesting to see what you're doing out there. You know, it's to me, it's really inspiring, actually, seeing the video clips that you showed of how people, how people are getting engaged in things that, maybe on the fringe they were always interested in, but this is providing that spark and that focus for people to get together and really be engaged. And it's always, of course, I'm not the only one, but it's always seemed to me that, if we're going to get really any kind of improvement in our water, like everything from impaired waters to, mitigating stormwater runoff, this is the kind of level that has to happen at. And so, yeah, thanks for all the effort on it. I think it's going to make a huge difference.
Well, it's just plain a lot of fun to work with people who get excited and bring their own ideas and imaginations into play, and just to get out of the way and help let them roll on.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for being with us. And we did record the seminar as we warned you we would.
Yeah.
And so people that can't join us this morning, they'll probably take it in later on. So